Hi, this is Cheryl Gallant, your Conservative Member of Parliament for the water sport loving riding of Renfrew-Nipissing-Pembroke. With all signs pointing to Trudeau pulling the plug on Parliament and launching a summer election, it's important Canadians have the full picture of the Trudeau agenda. The government, I can't even call them liberals, they've gone so far left. The government is desperate to bring in the internet censorship law. They want anyone who deviates from its narrative to be canceled. Last Friday, the paid-off media started the foreign interference drumbeat for the election Trudeau's itching to call. That was the excuse to have a government censorship panel in charge of blocking conservative social media posts during the last election. This time, they had hoped to have C-10, the internet censorship bill, passed. Once the internet censorship law is in place, the next round is already in the breach. The silencer is C-36. A bill that will have you canceled for offending someone. A hefty $70,000 fine comes with that law. See, now the government goal is to get your money, all of it. The Great Reset is underway. For those unable to convert or replace their small engines to electric power by next year, the price for uncut gasoline will be unaffordable. You can buy it now in hardware stores for $100 a gallon. Maybe you can live without your jet ski. But what about snowmobiles for those who live in northern communities? $100 a gallon? And small outboard engines. One of the greatest pleasures in life here in the Ottawa Valley is to hop into a 12-foot aluminum boat and go fishing in one of our many lakes and rivers. People on fixed incomes cannot afford to swap out their gas-powered motor for an electric one twice the price. They can't afford to go back and forth from work on the current price of blended fuel. On July 2nd, the Renfrew County Health Unit sent out an email to everyone who had an appointment for their second vaccination, stating all appointments were canceled. Newsflash. July is summer vacation and people are away. Sometimes emails are missed and not opened. Sometimes emails go to junk or spam folders. Email addresses change. Power outages can send emails into cyber limbo. People drop internet service because something has to give in this ever increasingly taxed country, and eating is a necessity of life. And some people don't have reliable basic hardline telephone service in Renfrew County, let alone access to the internet. Even Elon Musk's SkyTrain of lights we see going overhead at night may be accessible to some, but it's unaffordable to most. Bell has fiber going right through communities with no high speed, but cannot be bothered to upgrade deteriorated copper wire for basic phone service, let alone internet access. Worse yet, despite a ruling requiring the major telcos to cut rental rates to companies who can be bothered to connect rural customers to fiber, Trudeau stepped in and nixed the cost savings. Having rural Canadians disconnected is in keeping with the Liberals' overall strategy to divide and conquer. It all started when they were first elected in 2015. They claimed we were in a recession and immediately hiked taxes. They said it was for infrastructure. Well, the parliamentary budget officer can't find where the billions of tax dollars earmarked for infrastructure went. Maybe that's why the Liberal infrastructure minister is resigning her seat. Any new builds with federal money were from the 10-year Building Canada program implemented by our previous Conservative government. We later learned the Liberals put the tax dollars towards social infrastructure. Those organizations will make themselves known during the next election campaign, endorsing the radicalized Liberals while demonizing the Conservatives. Last month, the Trudeau Liberals tried to cancel the implementation of a Conservative private members' bill passed by Parliament that would lower taxes on small business owners and farmers who passed their family business on to family members. On the night before the Finance Committee hearings that would examine the government's unprecedented actions to defy Parliament and set aside tax laws it dislikes, Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland claimed that she has reversed her position by releasing a statement acknowledging the law had come into force. She also committed to making changes to Bill C-208 in November. Small business owners and farmers deserve certainty and clarity so they can prosper and grow out of the pandemic. Thousands of family business transfers will be held up because the families don't know what criteria or rules the Liberal government will come up with in November. Canada's Conservatives don't believe Liberals when they say they won't cancel implementing this bill. The Liberals have repeatedly said one thing before an election when they want your vote and another thing after they don't need it anymore. This is just another example of that. When this bill was passed by Parliament, only the Liberals voted against it. When Trudeau's government couldn't stop it outright, they committed to retroactively changing the law to continue their war on small businesses. This law would help small businesses and farm families by making it more affordable for owners to pass on a family business to family members and keep employees employed. The Liberals don't want this law because they say small business owners will defraud the government. The Liberals continue to show that they view small business owners as tax cheats. Canada's Conservatives will use every tool at our disposal to support small businesses and fight back against the undemocratic action of these Trudeau Liberals. If you're not worried about small businesses and creating jobs, you have 3 parties to choose from. If you are, you have only one, Canada's Conservatives. This week, we learned about a secret project launched by the Canadian Border Services Agency after Trudeau was first elected. For 6 months, the government deployed secret facial recognition technology at Pearson Airport. All Canadians who passed through that airport had their pictures taken and stored from one of 32 cameras. Federal departments and agencies must prepare privacy impact statements for these types of projects. The so-called privacy impact statement prepared by CBSA basically described the ways it would violate privacy. The CBSA did not put up signs at Pearson Airport informing travelers the technology was being used. Instead, they used their privacy impact assessment to justify the intrusion by arguing that putting up signage would have led to inaccurate information, defeated the purpose of collecting the information, or prejudiced the information being collected. When the media asked the CBSA, the spokesman actually said it was okay because no one complained. No one complained because the program ran in secret. We can expect more of this type of government intrusion under the Trudeau Liberals. That pandemic gave them a taste for control, and they're not going to give up any power without a fight. In recent episodes, We've talked about the Liberals' plan to bring in a massive fuel tax. The so-called clean fuel standard is really just a consumer fuel scam. It's a massive tax disguised as environmental policy. When first hearing about the consumer fuel scam, some farmers thought this would mean more demand for corn and soya, two of the primary sources for ethanol and biodiesel fuel. Only when the government released its plans did farmers realize the scale of the Trudeau power grab. Half of the so-called new fuel regulations deal with regulating farmers. If a farmer wishes to grow corn and soya for the purpose of making ethanol or biodiesel, they'll need to be certified. Their farms will need to be verified. They cannot create new farmland to grow the crops. So if a farmer is growing soya for the food or feed market, but demand dries up, they cannot turn around and just sell to a fuel producer. This is a pretty typical Trudeau policy. On the one hand, pass the regulations to drive up demand for the ethanol, and with the other hand, pass regulations to make producing ethanol harder for Canadians. If fuel producers cannot afford Trudeau's extra regulated ethanol, they'll be forced to buy carbon credits from the government. This will drive up the price of fuels on top of Trudeau's carbon tax. While the Trudeau Liberals announced a ban on gas-powered vehicles by 2035, you may not even be able to afford gasoline by 2030. How much do you think the price of a liter of gas will be in 2030? Put your prediction in the comments below. That's all the time we have for this show today. Live from Ottawa, this is Cheryl Gallant wishing you a good night.